picture this. Fabergé's most magnificent egg, holding the symbol of an entire capital city. But what if I told you that alongside it in history, there's a masterpiece bought at a flea market for next to nothing, only to gather dust in a kitchen for decades? What imperial secret did it keep? And how did a tiny jeweled elephant, thought lost for decades, suddenly turn up in the collection of Queen Elizabeth II herself, revealing the secret of yet another imperial egg? Today, incredible destinies, million-dollar discoveries, and a brilliance that never fades. These are Fabergé stories you haven't heard before. Prepare to be amazed. Before we begin, please support my channel by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you. After my last video exploring some of Fabergé's imperial eggs, it was really wonderful to see the interest and the comments. Enough of you were keen to hear more, and it made me think, there are just so many more stories to tell, aren't there? Now, if you recall, these incredible Easter eggs for the Romanovs weren't just pretty trinkets. Each one was a unique part of a deeply personal tradition, a real symbol of affection, and always held a special, meticulously crafted surprise inside. So today, I thought we'd continue that journey and get to know a few more of these remarkable pieces. And honestly, each one is like stepping into its own little world. They're not just about the stunning jewels, though, of course, those are breathtaking. They're so rich with history, with the personal lives of the family, and sometimes there's even a bit of a detective story woven in. It's quite something to consider, isn't it? How these objects carry so much? And I've actually saved something quite poignant for the very end of our chat today. We'll look at two of Fabergé's final designs. Imperial eggs that were being created for Easter 1917. They were never completed, never gifted, because, well, history intervened in the most dramatic way imaginable. So, with that in mind, let's begin this next chapter, shall we? Into the world of Fabergé's brilliance, his secrets, and his unparalleled craftsmanship. Let's start with a piece that has a remarkable second act to its story, the golden egg with clock. This was an early gift from 1887 by Emperor Alexander III to his wife, Maria Fyodorovna. It's a beautiful gold diamond-studded egg. You press a diamond, and the top flips open to reveal its ingenious surprise, a working Vacheron Constantin clock, beautifully integrated into the design. The whole piece, with its delicate gold garlands of roses, was an expression of love and the Easter themes of resurrection. For many years, a historical mix-up surrounded this egg. Another famous Fabergé clock egg, the blue serpent clock egg, was often thought to be this 1887 gift. Careful research, however, eventually revealed that this golden egg was indeed the earlier one, the third imperial Easter egg ever made. The truly astonishing part of its tale comes much later. After the Russian Revolution, its whereabouts became unknown for decades. It was one of the missing imperial eggs. Then, in most extraordinary circumstances, it resurfaced. Imagine a very unassuming, modest American gentleman from the Midwest walking into Wartsky in London, the renowned Fabergé experts. He didn't present the egg itself at first, but rather a set of photographs, suggesting he might just be in possession of that long-lost imperial treasure. Apparently, this gentleman had picked it up at a flea market years before. Can you believe it? Likely thinking it was just an ornate piece of scrap gold. Earlier, Fabergé pieces can be quite refined and delicate, not always immediately screaming imperial treasure, and he'd even considered melting it down. Only when he Googled the name Vacheron Constantin engraved on the clock and saw an article about a missing Fabergé egg did he realize he might have something extraordinary. He brought the photographs to Wartsky, and Mr. McCarthy instantly recognized it from their research as the missing 1887 Imperial Egg. After its rediscovery and authentication, it was acquired by a private collector in 2014. It's a story that makes you wonder what other incredible pieces of history might still be out there, waiting for a curious eye or a stroke of luck to bring them back into the light. Okay, continuing our journey, let's move forward just a few years to 1890. This next egg is a beautiful example of how Fabergé's creations often wove in very personal elements for the imperial family, particularly for Empress Maria Feodorovna, who, as you know, was born Princess Dagmar of Denmark. This is the Danish Palaces Egg. This was another gift from Alexander III to his wife, and it's just lovely in its delicate coloring, this soft pink mauve enamel divided into 12 sections by lines of rose-cut diamonds. Where these lines intersect, there's a little emerald, and the whole thing is crowned with a star sapphire. It's very elegant, very refined. But the real charm and the deeply personal touch lies in its surprise. When you open the egg, it reveals this exquisite 10-panel folding screen. It's made of multicolored gold, and each panel features a miniature watercolor painting on mother of pearl. And these aren't just any scenes. They are all places incredibly dear to Maria Feodorovna. You have views of the Imperial Yacht Polar Star, then Bernstorff Palace in Copenhagen, which must have brought back so many memories for her. There's also the Emperor's Villa in Fredensborg Park, a cherished Danish royal estate, and Amalienborg Palace, the main royal residence in Copenhagen. Then it moves to Kronborg Castle, the famous Elsinore from Hamlet, which is such an iconic Danish landmark. And then, connecting her Danish past to her Russian present, the screen also includes paintings of the cottage palace in Peterhof, which was a beloved Romanov retreat, and Gachina Palace, another of her important Russian home. Finally, there's the imperial yacht Zerevna. Imagine receiving such a gift. It's like a little album of cherished memories, all rendered with such incredible detail on these tiny mother-of-pearl canvases. You can almost feel the nostalgia and affection that went into commissioning and creating it. And like many of the eggs, it had quite a journey after the Revolution, eventually making its way to the United States, and it's now housed in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York as part of the Matilda Gettings Gray Foundation collection. It's rather lovely to think that people can still see this very personal tribute to Maria Feodorovna's Danish heritage today. It really tells you something about their relationship, doesn't it? Moving ahead just a couple of years, we reach 1892 and the Diamond Trellis Egg, a piece that pairs remarkable artistry with a delightful lost and found twist. This was also a gift from Alexander III to Maria Feodorovna. The egg is carved from a pale green stone, usually identified as jadeite, though some suggest bowenite. Whatever the stone, it has a lovely translucency. Encasing the delicate shell is a lattice of rose-cut diamonds set in gold like a jeweled net. A large diamond crowns its base. Originally, it rested on a stand with 3 silver putti, said to represent their sons, Nicholas, George, and Michael. That stand is now lost, last seen in a 1960 photograph. But the real star, especially in recent years, is the surprise. For decades, it was considered missing. Fabergé's records described an automaton, a little ivory elephant, adorned with jewels that could actually move. This was Fabergé's very first automaton for an imperial egg. The elephant held special meaning for Maria Feodorovna. Its design echoed the badge of Denmark's highest order, the Order of the Elephant, a nod to her homeland. For years, this exquisite automaton existed only in records. Then, in 2015, came astonishing news. Caroline de Guiteau, senior curator at the Royal Collection Trust, discovered a tiny ivory elephant while cataloging items. It had been in the British Royal Collection since King George V acquired it in 1935, but its link to the Diamond Trellis Egg had gone unnoticed. Fabergé marks were found, and it matched the historical description exactly. The lost surprise was found in Buckingham Palace. It's just wonderful, isn't it? This tiny mechanical elephant, a marvel of Fabergé's workshop, sitting unrecognized for so long. And it still works. It walks and moves its head. It really shows how these Fabergé pieces continue to reveal their secrets. All right, let's continue our journey into the early 20th century to 1901. By this time, of course, Nicholas II was on the throne, and he faithfully continued the tradition of commissioning these exquisite Easter eggs. One of the eggs he presented to his mother, the Dowager Empress Maria Feodorovna. That year was the Gachina Palace Egg. Gachina Palace, just outside St. Petersburg, was one of Maria Feodorovna's primary residences, a place she was deeply fond of. The egg itself is crafted from gold and covered in this lovely opalescent white enamel, divided into panels by delicate lines of seed pearls. It's quite regal and elegant in its design, the work of Fabergé's renowned workmaster, Mikhail Perkin. But, as always with Fabergé, the true delight is often in the surprise. When you open the Gachina Palace Egg, nestled inside is a meticulously detailed miniature gold replica of the palace itself. It's astonishingly precise. You can see tiny cannons, a flag, even a miniature statue of Tsar Paul I, who had once owned and significantly developed Gachina. The surrounding landscape elements are also hinted at. What's rather clever is that this miniature palace isn't fixed inside the egg. It can actually be removed and admired separately. It's a feature Fabergé would use again, for instance, in the Alexander Palace Egg a few years later. This removability allows you to really appreciate the craftsmanship of the miniature from all angles. It's like holding a little piece of architectural history in the palm of your hand. There's a little anecdote I came across about this egg, though it sounds more like a bit of palace folklore than a confirmed fact. The story goes that shortly after the Empress received it, the egg mysteriously disappeared, only to be found a few days later in her bedroom. Apparently, all the servants were dismissed as a result. Whether there's truth to that or not, it adds a little touch of intrigue, doesn't it? After the revolution, the Gachina Palace Egg eventually made its way out of Russia. It was acquired in 1930 by the American collector Henry Walters, and it's been part of the Walters Art Museum collection in Baltimore, Maryland, since 1931, where it's often on display. All right, let's turn our attention now to a piece that really captures the romance and artistic flair of the late 19th century. This is the Bouquet of Lilies clock egg, created in 1899 as an Easter gift from Nicholas II to his wife, Alexandra Feodorovna. It's quite distinct, isn't it? Not so much an egg in the traditional sense, but a magnificent clock shaped as a vase, echoing antique French styles. And atop this vase rests a breathtaking bouquet, delicate lilies carved from translucent white agate, as if freshly bloomed with a wreath of golden roses at their base. Of course, at the imperial court, the language of flowers was well understood. The lilies were symbols of purity and sincerity, while the roses represented eternal love. So, the entire piece was really a most elegant declaration of his feelings. And there's one detail that particularly underscores the romantic message. The clock hand is fashioned as Cupid's bow and arrow. The dial itself, with its diamond-set Roman numerals, would rotate, while Cupid's arrow remained stationary, pointing to the current hour. It's a rather charming way to mark time, with the underlying sentiment that while time passes, love endures. This beautiful creation was the work of Mikhail Perkin's workshop, the same master craftsman responsible for the Gachina Palace Egg we just talked about. And like many of Fabergé's imperial eggs, the Bouquet of Lilies originally had a surprise hidden within. Sadly, it's been lost over time. However, archival information suggests it was likely a small pendant, perhaps featuring a diamond rose, which would have perfectly completed all that floral symbolism. Since 1927, the Bouquet of Lilies egg has been housed in the armory chamber of the Moscow Kremlin. So, this symbol of enduring love, crafted over a century ago, can still be seen today. It really does stand out, both for its unusual form and for the way it so beautifully marries the functionality of a clock with the sheer opulence of the floral arrangement. Right, so after that rather charming Bouquet of Lilies clock, let's move forward just a few years to 1902. This next piece, also a gift from Nicholas II to Alexandra Feodorovna, is considered by many to be one of the most poetic and technically brilliant examples of Fabergé's work in the Art Nouveau style, which was at its absolute height at the time. It's the Cloverleaf Egg. This egg is just breathtaking in its delicacy. Its surface that seems almost woven from the finest golden stems and leaves of clover. The petals themselves are either outlined with tiny rose-cut diamonds or, and this is the truly remarkable part, filled with a transparent, luminous green enamel. This difficult stained glass technique, without a backing, made the egg incredibly precious and costly. It's a technique called plique à jour, which essentially means letting in daylight. Tiny ruby ribbons, symbols of passionate love, wind through the foliage, and the egg rests on an equally delicate gold stand of clover stems. It's so fragile, it reportedly never travels for exhibitions. The original surprise is lost, but Fabergé's invoice describes it. A large four-leaf clover with 23 diamonds and 4 miniature portraits, almost certainly of their 4 daughters. A four-leaf clover, of course, signifies good luck, making this a deeply personal emblem for Alexandra, holding her children's images. Tiny clips inside the egg likely held this surprise. Interestingly, there's a compelling theory about this lost surprise. A 1908 photograph shows Empress Alexandra wearing a distinctive 4-leaf clover brooch with what appear to be 4 miniature portraits. Its design strongly resembles a sketch from Fabergé's workshops. Could this be the missing surprise, worn as personal jewelry? It's a tantalizing thought. This cloverleaf egg is also notable as it's considered the last great masterpiece by the genius goldsmith Mikhail Perkin. After his death in 1903, his workshop was taken over by Henrik Wigström, who capably continued the tradition. But Perkin's pieces from this era have a particular romantic quality and artistic softness that many find unique. All right, let's turn to an egg that is, quite simply, a technical marvel and a testament to the incredible skill within Fabergé's workshops. We're jumping forward to 1914, just before the world changed so drastically, and looking at the Mosaic Egg, which Nicholas II presented to Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna. Often considered one of Fabergé's most extraordinary creations, it was designed by Alma Peel, notably one of the few women in his workshops. She came from a family of Fabergé craftsmen. Her grandfather, August Holmström, was the firm's senior jeweler. In fact, Alma had already designed another imperial egg the year before, the celebrated Winter Egg. The inspiration for the Mosaic Egg came in a quiet, domestic moment. One evening, Alma watched her mother-in-law stitching petite point embroidery by the fire. The play of light across the needlework struck her, and that flickering, intricate beauty became the heart of her design. The egg itself is like a delicate cage of platinum, entirely handmade, with each tiny square meticulously cut. Into this mesh, an incredible array of tiny, precious, and semi-precious stones are set: rubies, sapphires, demantoid garnets, diamonds, forming stylized floral patterns reminiscent of that embroidery. The stones are held in place purely by the perfection of their cut and how precisely they fit into the tiny spaces. Not every single square is filled, so when you look at the egg, it's remarkably translucent. You can almost see right through it. The borders between these embroidered panels are set with white enamel and tiny seed pearls. And then, of course, there's the surprise. When Alexandra opened the egg on Easter morning, she would have found this beautiful object inside. It's an enameled medallion, also richly decorated with gems. On the front, it features the profile portraits of their 5 children: Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, and the young Tsarevich Alexei. On the reverse of this medallion is another enameled scene, a basket of flowers with the names of the 5 children. Stepping back a few years from the Mosaic Egg to 1906, we encounter what is arguably the most imposing and architecturally ambitious of all the Imperial Easter Eggs, the Moscow Kremlin Egg. This was Nicholas II's gift to Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna, commemorating their significant visit to Moscow for Easter in 1903. That visit was particularly noteworthy because the imperial couple hadn't spent much time in the old capital since the Kodinka Field tragedy during Nicholas's 1896 coronation. Fabergé's firm truly captured the essence of this ancient seat of power. The egg is a fantastical representation of the Uspensky Sobor or Dormition Cathedral within the Kremlin, where all Russian czars, including Nicholas II, were crowned. It's covered in beautiful, translucent white enamel, topped with a polished gold dome, echoing the cathedral's architecture. Magically, looking through one of its tiny glass windows, you're drawn into a meticulously painted miniature of the cathedral's interior, brightly illuminated as if for a grand service. The details are astonishing. The splendid iconostasis, the Tsar's traditional place, and the great frescoed pillars all come into view, offering a privileged peek into that hallowed space. The red gold base is equally impressive, representing parts of the Kremlin walls with the Spasskaya and Vodovzvodnaya towers, reproduced twice. The Spasskaya Tower even features the coat of arms of the Russian Empire and Moscow, and tiny enameled icons above its gates. The whole structure is grand, the egg cathedral raised high, its golden dome soaring. Little staircases lead up, emphasizing its sacred status. It is certainly the largest imperial egg in the Kremlin armory today. And, as with many of Fabergé's grander pieces, there's a musical element. During that 1903 visit, Nicholas II was very moved by the cherubic hymns in the Uspensky Cathedral. Fabergé, likely aware of this, incorporated a musical mechanism. When wound with a golden key, it plays those very melodies. So, the Moscow Kremlin egg is more than a beautiful object. It's a multisensory experience, a tribute to Russian history, faith, and Tsarist grandeur. It's a real showstopper, and you can see why it's considered such an iconic piece. Next, we arrive at a very significant anniversary, 1913, marking 300 years of Romanov rule. This was a huge celebration across Russia, meant to showcase the monarchy's endurance. Naturally, Fabergé was commissioned to create an Easter egg for this historic milestone, the Romanov Tentinary Egg. Nicholas II gifted this to Empress Alexandra Feodorovna, and it's absolutely laden with imperial symbolism. The gold egg is covered in opalescent white enamel, overlaid with intricate chased gold cagework of imperial crowns, Romanov griffins, and double-headed eagles, incredibly ornate and regal. The most striking feature, however, is the series of 18 exquisite miniature portraits by Vasily Zuyev, painted in watercolor on ivory. They depict all the Romanov rulers over those 3 centuries, from Michael I to Nicholas II himself, each framed with rose-cut diamonds. The dates, 1,613 inches and 1913, and the Zerevna's monogram are visible beneath large flat diamonds at the top and bottom. The egg rests on a stand that's also deeply symbolic, a miniature imperial state shield of Russia, crafted from purpurine, a deep red glass, and supported by 3 gilded silver Romanov griffins. The surprise inside is equally significant. Opening the egg reveals a rotating globe of dark blue enameled steel. On it, 2 depictions of the Northern Hemisphere in multicolored gold show the Russian Empire's territory in 1613, when the Romanovs began, and then its vastly expanded state in 1913. It's a powerful visual of Russia's growth under their rule. This egg is a monumental piece, a kind of political statement in precious materials. It celebrated the dynasty's long history and contemporary power. Knowing the storm clouds gathering over Russia just a year before World War I and 4 before the Revolution, there's a poignant quality to this grand display. It's another incredible Fabergé creation housed in the Kremlin armory, a testament to a pivotal moment on the cusp of immense change. Let's turn our attention now to a Fabergé egg that has a rather distinctive design and a fascinating connection to another royal family in more recent times, the blue serpent clock egg. Mistaken for years as the 1887 egg, research now firmly dates it to 1895. The first Easter gift Nicholas II commissioned for his mother, the Dowager Empress Maria Feodorovna. The main body of the egg is crafted from translucent royal blue enamel over an exquisitely gelocked gold base, that engine-turned engraving technique that gives the enamel such depth and shimmer. Encircling the shaft, supporting the egg, and coiling upwards is a diamond-set serpent, its head and tongue pointing to indicate the hour. So, how does it actually tell time? Well, you might recall a similar ingenious approach from the Bouquet of Lilies clock egg we discussed, where Cupid's arrow remained still while the dial moved. It's the same principle here with the blue serpent. The craftsmanship for this innovative timepiece, just like for the later Bouquet of Lilies, is credited to Michael Perkin of Fabergé's workshop. After the Revolution, the egg's journey was eventful. It passed through various hands, including London dealers Wartsky, before being sold in 1972 to Greek shipping magnate Stavros Niarchos. In 1974, the egg entered the princely collection of Monaco as a gift to Prince Rainier III in honor of his Silver Jubilee, the 25th anniversary of his accession to the Grimaldi throne. According to his son, Prince Albert II, the blue serpent egg quickly became one of Princess Grace's most treasured possessions. She apparently adored it and kept it on the desk in her private study. After her death, Prince Rainier preserved her suite as a memorial, and the egg remained out of public view for a time. Following Prince Rainier III's death in 2005, the egg was inherited by his son, Prince Albert II, and it remains in his private collection in Monaco. It has been exhibited publicly since then, allowing more people to appreciate its beauty and history. Okay, so we've journeyed through some absolutely magnificent Fabergé creations, each with its own story, its own intricate surprise. But now, as I promised at the beginning, we arrive at a rather poignant chapter, the story of two Imperial Easter Eggs that were meticulously designed and in production for Easter 1917, but which, due to the cataclysmic events of the Russian Revolution, were never completed and never presented. It's a stark reminder of how abruptly this incredible tradition, and indeed an entire world, came to an end. First, let's talk about the egg intended for the Dowager Empress Maria Feodorovna from her son Nicholas II. This was to be the Karelian Birch Egg. The story of the Birch Egg is particularly telling of the times. This egg, primarily crafted from Karelian birchwood set in a gold frame reflecting wartime austerity, was commissioned before the dramatic events of 1917 unfolded. The planned surprise was a miniature mechanical elephant, a nod to Maria Feodorovna's Danish heritage. The tiny gold and diamond key to wind this elephant still exists. What's quite striking is what happened after Tsar Nicholas II's abdication in March 1917. Fabergé still sent an invoice for the egg in April, addressing the former emperor simply as Mr. Romanov. And despite his drastically changed circumstances, Nicholas paid. However, he did not have time to give it to Maria Feodorovna. For decades after the revolution, the egg's whereabouts were then a complete mystery. It wasn't until 2001 that the Birch Egg dramatically re-emerged. It was acquired by the Russian collector Alexander Ivanov. This incredible find, sourced from a descendant of Russian émigrés in London, included the egg, its original case, the winding key, and crucial historical documents verifying its imperial commission. While its long period in obscurity has led to some debate among experts, its documented reappearance is a fascinating story in itself. The second egg from that fateful year, 1917, was intended for Empress Alexandra Feodorovna. This was the blue Tsarevich Constellation Egg, or sometimes simply the Constellation Egg. This egg was to be a celestial globe of dark blue glass, engraved with the constellation of Leo, the star sign under which the Tsarevich Alexei was born. The stars themselves were to be marked with rose-cut diamonds. It was designed to rest on a base of opaque rock crystal, representing clouds. The original Fabergé design drawing for this piece still exists, and it shows a very poetic and beautiful concept. What exists today are the two blue glass hemispheres of the egg, one engraved with the constellation and the rock crystal base. These pieces were actually identified in the collection of the Fersman Mineralogical Museum in Moscow in 2001. It turns out that Agathon Fabergé, one of Carl Fabergé's sons who was involved in inventorying imperial treasures after the Revolution, had gifted these unfinished components, along with other items, to the Fersman Museum around 1925. The clockwork mechanism that was intended to be inside, and likely a rotating dial, were never completed or have been lost, as have many of the diamond stars. So, these two eggs stand as silent witnesses to a tradition cut short: the Birch Egg, with its more austere design reflecting wartime, and the Constellation Egg, a deeply personal tribute to the longed-for heir. They represent the very last Imperial Easter commissions, a poignant end to a remarkable era of artistry and imperial patronage. And so, these Imperial Fabergé eggs, born of artistry and affection, continue to fascinate us, don't they? Each one is a tiny capsule of history, a testament to incredible craftsmanship, and a story waiting to be discovered. From celebrated masterpieces to those poignant, unfinished farewells, their legacy truly endures. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the world of Fabergé today. Which of these incredible creations captivated you the most? And are there any other legendary jewels or historical mysteries you'd be curious to explore together? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please do give this video a like. Consider subscribing to the channel for more explorations into the treasures of the past, and feel free to share it with anyone who appreciates history and artistry. Until next time, may your days be filled with beauty and wonder.